Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello. Hi, Dulce.
There are 7 callers on the call.
Oh, good. Almost as many of you as there are of us.
We have 7 online.
Good. Well, how are we doing? Anybody have any? Yeah, why don't we move that? Okay, I'll put it over here so you're not hitting. Part of that's when we move the roses. Can't see through them. We've been working on being here now and recognizing matter for what it is, or for what it isn't, I guess would be better said. I'm having trouble with this class, difficulty with this class, not with the people, but just with the class, because it seems so mental and energyless, and I'm sort of thinking that it may just be the nature of the class that, you know, there's not much realistic hope of us all mastering all of these obstacles. I think the goal of the class is actually to see clearly what each obstacle is, to learn what it's about, so that we can move on with it. But I guess I don't know whether that's a worthwhile thing to do or not. Usually I have all sorts of stuff that I get during the week that I bring to the class, and that didn't happen this week. I know what the topic is, the next topic is, and I know what the homework is, but beyond that I don't have any list of bullets to go through, and I think that may be part of it, to get my intellect out of the way.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Lee.
Well, I'm having trouble talking, Jim, so that makes sense. Let's see, I can't really turn this up. If I turn this up, it turns you up. Probably due to my mumbling. Any event, I'd be real interested in any feedback, as well as I'd be interested in hearing any experiences anybody's having with realizing what it feels like to be here and now. And I mean by that being in the eternal now and the infinite here. Are people getting any sense of what that feels like? Is anybody approaching the experience? Are we doing anything? Because talking about it is such a arm-waving thing, you know. It's all smoke and mirrors. What's happening? Anything?
Hey, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report, but I have been practicing in the here, being in the here and now, and of course I can only do it for a nanosecond. But I do understand the concept, and I am getting it more. It's for me, it's a lot about just shutting out what might happen, and know here and now. So I'm just practicing and going in and out of that, but I certainly understand the concept, and I'm working on it.
Cool. Thank you.
This is Adele. I really am recognizing what a whack job I am. Just have,
About time.
yeah, really. Jeez. Really trying to that's a problem, trying. Just stopping and being present. I've been able to do that with meditation over the years, but trying to do it all day without being propelled forward and distracted constantly is, I'm realizing how challenging that is with the mind so active all the time. It's one thing to meditate, but to be present is a real challenge.
Sure. Requires not thinking.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Not only not thinking, but not attending the committee meetings in the head.
Yeah. And the need to be in motion physically. I just cannot believe it. I recognize that I've been like this as long as I can remember. But because I'm not working right now, and it's right in front of me, and this is very helpful because I keep reminding myself the only thing different from the moment before I feel agitated and the moment I feel agitated is a thought. And that's it.
Good.
And so this practice is very helpful because I can see how far I have to, how far I still have to go between moments, short periods of meditation and being present.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Jay. What's been interesting to me is that there have been moments of what I call consolation when I'm present with the homework, and then there's times that I just am completely so far away from
We
it.
can't hear you.
The difference
And
between...
every other sentence is fading in and out terribly, and we can't hear you.
Well, it could be me fading in and out too. It tends to be the way I talk. But
No, it was been doing it from the beginning, including Lee. I was just getting every couple of sentences here and there.
That's how it was
Okay.
when we were on the phone.
yeah, that's how it was when we were on the phone last week, the week before. Anyway,
Do you want me to call back in again and see if I get a better line?
Yeah, because I've called back in 4 times, and I'm not getting any better, so.
You're very clear.
Good. You're not, so you call. I think it's just...
All right, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. Let's see how it works on the... Is that better? Well, I'm on my handheld phone too. That may make a difference.
Then it may...
It also helps to make sure for all the people on to make sure all our phones are muted, please?
I'm sure they all are. We hear the muting. Beep, beep. Am I clearer now?
Hello?
Yes, you're much clearer.
Oh, good.
All right, anyway, this is Jay, and the thing that's been interesting, at least today, is how far I can get away from the present moment. I've been totally in my head all day today, and I guess the reason that I feel the suffering I am at this moment is that there's been some times of some real consolation over the past 2 weeks, but I've got completely into my head that there's things that I have to, the little I has to be doing, and I was just spun about 45 minutes ago, and so it's really good to be here. But I think that as far as the feedback of the class goes, is that that at least starting out with time and matter, it's such a stretch to perfection. It seems that
Sure.
And I just haven't even accepted my complete responsibility for seeing that. I do at times, but not to the point where I'm looking for it as I go through the day. And so that's just. But today's extraordinarily difficult for me. So.
It is interesting that if we start with space and time and matter and mind, that it'll be a short class, won't it? There won't be much reason to talk about anything else. This may be crossing off all the other topics on the list. Maybe we started at the wrong end, because I don't know, I want to go talk about the things you love and hate after this,
Mm-hmm.
It may just be a very short class. Maybe we started at the wrong end, but it seems like we should start with the problem.
I can't believe how much I've been lifted just since we walked through the door, though.
Maybe we should just start meditating on Wednesday nights. Forget the whole class.
I'm in.
Yeah, good. Yes.
I'm with Jim. I find it I understand the concept. I find it hard to do. I have done it a few times, and a couple of remarkable things have happened. And even after that, it is hard to gear up, if you will, and get into that quiet when you're surrounded by people and situations all day long. And that's when I need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just a matter, I guess, of trying and trying and trying.
Good. Who else?
This is Rolly.
Hey, Rolly.
Yeah, I agree. These concepts are very far from me as well. However, this last week, and I don't know if this is, well, yeah, it must, but on Sunday, well, after the class, it was just in my mind, in my consciousness, this constant thinking about or exploring the concept of matter and material sense of self, and it was just part of my work, and it was quite, uneventful. But then on Sunday, I woke up, or I had sort of a sleepless night, and I woke up, and I was just completely I don't know what to call it, but I just was hit in the forehead with the material sense of self and the concept of matter. And what I found was the depth of my attachment to the material sense of self and to matter was just clearly stated to me. Don't think that I am anywhere close to being detached from the material sense of self. I have so many attachments, and they run so deep. And it really came true that, or what I realized over the next couple of days, after those 2 days of just being completely in the muck and just not being able to see anything. What I came out with was this clarity that, what I thought I had detached from, or that I was not attached to material sense of self or matter, was just not true. It was another smoke screen. It was another thing that mind or ego created around it, using words and concepts from the infinite way and from things I've learned, but in reality, I'm still attached in a huge way. And it was just this outbreak of this conflict between what was actually happening and what I thought was happening, and it just became clear. And it took 2 days, and now it was just at the end of those 2 days, there was a sense of relief in a way to know this is where I'm at. I'm not anywhere else, but I am right here, right now, with these attachments. It's okay. I now know where I need to go attack the work anew. So the class has caused a bunch of energy on my end this last week. So, yep, that's it.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, that's sort of what it's all about. One of the reasons we started this class, or that came to do it, is that we hear Herb and Joel and all these people talking so glibly about eternal and this and that and the other thing, and it's really easy to let those words just sort of cross through our mind and not hear what they're saying. We found that years ago when I finally taught the Principles of the Infinite Way class, because people are sitting here reading Infinite Way books and not hearing what's being said. And part of the reason for this class is that I don't know whether people are hearing what's being said when we talk about now and here and things like that. So I'm glad to hear that you're having an experience. That's what I mean when I say the object is not to get through it in this class. The object is to see the problem, and it sounds like you had quite a breakthrough on that. So that's really good. Thank you, Raleigh.
Yeah, thank you, Raleigh. That was articulated so well. That's exactly what I've been feeling the same way. And I've had moments of being absolutely horrified of how attached I still am. And I mean, that's ego too. Mm-hmm. To how I'm perceived. It's the same. I really appreciated hearing that. Really, I feel the same way. That's a good thing to see it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good point.
This is Bridget. I might as well piggyback that because I had a similar week in the sense that I find that this is is expanding. The reading and listening to Herb and then reading Joel and the meditations, and then incorporating the practice and then finding out what the attachments are, and then going going through these. In the morning I'm higher than a kite. In the afternoon I'm just like beating on my bed, or just finding myself. And the whole week was about allowing that to be exactly where I am in the now. If I am attached, or if kid comes on the field, just accept that in the now, and be with it, and then watch and behold what happens after, or in the now, in the next moment in the now. And it was, I just feel like, this is just expanding, and I don't know if it would if I weren't in a class where I know that we're all, doing this at some level together, and I don't know if I could then point to it. At 5:30 in the morning, I know where you are, and I'm there with you, and then I feel like I'm connected to something, and I don't feel like I'm necessarily going out of my mind, which this whole thing is about going out of our mind, so that's not a bad thing. I just don't mind now that I'm on this roller coaster ride in the moment.
Cool.
I know that it's a part of the process to emptying out. I just never knew that I really have a lot to empty from conditioning and this illusory of pain and suffering that I so believe that I have instilled in me. And it's like, I just to see it clearer and clearer and clearer, and walking through it, and it's just, I think this is a good thing. I'm thoroughly need to hear these, what is these obstacles, and maybe this week it won't clear necessarily, but it will. It's now present, and it will. That's been my experience. I might have heard something 4 months ago, and just now I'm getting it, or it's just coming up. It's time within my individual expression to walk through it or hear it clearly. So I really value this course. So that's my feedback.
Okay, thank you. There needs to be two things going on here, and one is the healing work. That's why that came to me, that we needed to continue doing that and to press on that, and we really need to be doing that, because see, that's the meditation and the consciousness developing. This is fairly mental, although I hope we're cracking out of the mental a little bit. That part of it is to see this clearly enough that we actually get glimpses of the reality rather than the concepts.
Lee, I did have something I wanted to throw out, please.
Please.
Last week we talked about the fact that I stopped writing to my kids, and I gave that a lot of thought this week, and I think they seem to have gone away some time back, and I just sort of tapered off not writing anymore. And then it took me a while to realize that there was this kid who was unhappy because he has all the things he thought would make him happy, and he's still not. So I wrote, I've been writing to him almost every day, but I started by writing to him and expressing my the fact that I am here for him, and that we have to accept the fact that things are not the answer, and that I would be here any way I could to help him. And I got almost immediate relief.
Yeah.
The thing is that as I was writing, I was thinking, good, it's been so long, maybe they're mad with me because I haven't been taking care of them. But it was as if I picked up right where I left off, that the kids were there, the kid understood, and
Cool.
It's just been a great weight that's been lifted.
Yeah, great. So perhaps the kid didn't need taken care of until the shock came that the fantasy doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going around this week. Fantasy's not working. I know of two other cases where people find themselves in exactly the situation they had been hoping for all their life. And the F word comes up. Oh, F. Excuse me for a minute, and then we'll start on the next topic.
This is Jay, and right along with what Jim was saying, I did have the sense a couple of weeks ago that Adele was talking about, looking at where we live as maybe being a problem, and I went through this thing of realizing that where I live has never made any difference about how I felt about myself. And then from that, who I'm with really hasn't changed any of the way that I felt about myself. Or, each of the attachments down the line. So, thanks for bringing that up, Jim.
So let me ask you a question. What do space and time and matter have in common?
They don't exist.
Yeah.
Besides that?
Other than
Besides
that.
that.
Other than that.
They only exist in the third dimension.
Right.
They only exist in mind.
In mind, exactly. They only exist in mind. Mind creates time, and mind creates space, and mind creates matter. Or not really creates, it forms it, let's say. And that's what's... It's just flying through now. All the notes that we didn't get before. We have it all wrong. See, we think that our mind is inside our head, and that our head is in our part of our body, and that we're in space and time and made out of matter. That's the great lie. And it's the other way around, that mind actually does create space and time and matter, or the concepts of those of space and time and matter. So it's absolutely, totally backwards. Joel once said somewhere that the spiritual truth is often the exact opposite of the material truth, and often is not the right word. Always and totally is the right word. I mean, it's just dramatically wrong. So tonight's obstacle is mind, because it ties together space, time, and matter. And it's not really an obstacle. The obstacle is not seeing mind clearly, not recognizing what mind is, not understanding what it's doing, what we're seeing. It's this is exactly for you, those of you who've been listening to Robert, what you see in mind and what Robert calls false imagination are exactly the same. He often talks about false imagination. And false imagination, I was reading the Lankanavattara Sutra again, which is a favorite of mine. And it said very point blank, false imagination is misunderstanding what's in mind. And they go on to say discriminating, thinking that what's in mind is separate things, and therefore thinking that they are real. And because we think they're real, we think it forces upon us an ego-centric position to see all this stuff from. And so we're not realizing that the content of mind, what does mind contain? Really, what does mind contain? Imagination, right? Visions, imaginations, hallucinations, hypnotisms. That's all that mind can contain. And yet this world, as distinct from my kingdom, is in mind. So it's really fundamentally all imagination. It's all hallucination. It's all false imagination, is Robert's word, and it's exactly right. And we're not going to get rid of mind. We're not trying to overcome the obstacle of mind, because we're going to have mind as long as we're wearing bodies. What we're trying to overcome is the belief that there's something out there. We're back to Robert's not letting your thoughts go beyond your nose. The idea that that is something out there. It's like believing that there's something in the mirror when you're standing in front of the mirror. Just like that. That's not a bad analogy at all. It's like when you stand in front of the mirror and you see stuff in the mirror, thinking it's there would be a serious mistake. You would be putting on your makeup, painting it on the glass. You might try to jump forward and crash into the mirror. Believing that the stuff in the mirror is real would be a bad mistake. Believing the stuff in mind is real, external to you, made out of matter, is a bad mistake. Just believing that there is space and time, which is necessary in mind so the forms can be forms, is a bad mistake. And we have to go higher. All there is consciousness. And it's this consciousness. It's the consciousness that I'm conscious with right now. And if you all close your eyes and think a thought, and then recognize that you're conscious of that thought, that consciousness is the one I'm talking about. That's the one consciousness. And our fundamental principle is all there is consciousness. And there's consciousness expressed, or I love the word individualized, and that will come up in our homework. Consciousness, what is expressed, is individualized as you and me and the cat and the orchid and the roses. What is individualizing as these, I'm putting quotes around it, as these things, as these objects. But what is consciousness. There's no matter in what is. There's nothing in what is than consciousness, and yet what is expressing as. And how does what is expressed? How do you express within consciousness? Again, the same answer. You imagine, or I don't know what sounds like a sounds blasphemous to say that God is imagining all this, but the reality is that that's probably the best word we have in the language. What is imagining what is. The manifested what is. It's not even time to use the word manifested, but what is imagining a creation, and its creation is imagined in the consciousness that it is, and it's a part of the consciousness that it is. Just like when you have a dream at night, and here's this dream, and there's all these things in the dream, there's people in the dreams, and there's matter in the dreams, and there's time in the dream, and there's space in between the people in the dream, and the dream may go on for hours, and there's all this stuff in the dream. And yet, if it were measured on an EKG, the dream actually, the rapid eye movement actually only took place for 1 second or two. The dream was almost instantaneous. It did not last several hours. And so your own mind, your own brain demonstrated its ability to manufacture time, and it manufactured space, whatever environment you were in, that bubble of space was manufactured, and yet none of that existed. It never was real, and it never even had duration, and it never even took up space, okay? I mean, all of that. And yet there was space, and there was time, and there was matter, and smells, and aromas, and sounds, and light, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, all that happened there. And yet the consciousness that was causing that, if you will, was outside of that space and time and matter. Okay? Now what is expressed. Verbs don't work either, by the way. We're just absolutely crippled by our language. Because it's not ising, but it's not done ising either. It's not is either. There is no time and space. You get the problem with talking about it? You can't even talk about it because we don't have any tenses that are no time. There's no verbs. But what is ising, but it's outside of space and time, and an aspect of what is mind, within which space and time and matter and things like that happen. Meg asked God, what is mind? And the answer she got is, you're looking at it. And that's right, this bubble that we're looking at is mind. This is all happening in mind, just like it does in the dream that you had last night, that you were in. And the dreamer is outside of mind. Mind is a aspect of consciousness, or a function of consciousness. Function's a better word. It's a function of consciousness. And what this function does is it forms within itself the content of the consciousness that's driving it, okay? And we see that at lots of levels. We see ourselves doing it at night when we dream. We see ourselves doing it during the day, but we don't cop to the fact that we're creating it. And also, we see that what is did that. What is manifested in consciousness, and what is outside of time, and an aspect of it, part of its creation is created, is expressed, informed in mind. And there's one other complication going on here. You and I that are talking about this and are seeing this and are discussing this are in mind. This body, this Lee, Jay, Victoria, these objects are in mind, within mind, operating with 5 senses, dealing with matter, operating in space and time. This is what Jesus called this world. This world is the world in mind, and the The personal sense is the ego is the one that thinks it lives inside this body, within this mind. And that's all part of the false imagination. Li is part of the false imagination. The idea that there is a Li is purely false imagination. The idea that there could possibly be a Li is false imagination. All there is consciousness. My consciousness, by the way. So what is expressed is individualized as the entity, the dual, so to speak. When I say so to speak, you understand, everybody understands when I say so to speak, I mean this is bullshit, but the words don't exist to say it any other way. You got that? Okay. The individualization in this particular case here is a dualistic one. There's a spiritual being and there's the human experience. And the human experience is inside mind and inside space and inside time and has a material body. And the spiritual experience is outside of mind and it does not have space. There is no space there. There is no time there. And it does not have a material body. Now, Joel and Herb will talk about spiritual bodies, but that sounds like an oxymoron to me.
Yeah.
But there is something out there. You know, there is that spiritual being which is formed by mind in space and time in this associated with this Li body. Okay? But the I that I am, the I that I contact when I meditate is outside of space, is outside of time, is immaterial. This is the eternal one that Herb loves to talk about, the immortal one that Herb loves to talk about, the infinite one that Herb loves to talk about. If there's no space, I mean, infinite's pretty clear. If there's no time, eternal is pretty clear. So there's this other being out there. And that's the real I. And the I that I am there is the I that you are there. Although we're formed to be separate in this mind thing that allows us to be formed and have space between us. False imagination. So we're getting a sense of what mind really is, what it really does. It's the bubble maker. It's imagination. It's Robert, being outside of space and time, was always confused as to whether any particular thing he was doing was whether he was dreaming or having a visualization or was just operating in the normal world, so to speak. You know, he saw no difference between the pictures, the things that mind formed when he was dreaming and the things that mind formed when he was having a vision, and the things that mind formed when he was having a Robert were all identical to him. He saw no difference between those, and so sometimes he was confused as to whether he was dreaming or dealing in what we call the real world. His visions were the same way. He told us about some visions he had, and they were as real to him as the conversation he was having to us. I guess the only other thing to say about mind is that Joel and Herb talk a lot about cosmic mind. And you know, there is a mind that one of the things that mind, I don't know what else mind does for those beings which are no longer wearing bodies and are no longer associated with this at all, but what mind does for us is it takes what is created, i.e. the things that what is has in its consciousness, and it is forming them in a way that is 5 sense interpretable. So that it's a closed package. The Li that's formed inside of mind has five senses, and what it sees is the five sense rendition of whatever reality is, which is outside of mind. Okay, so mind is reflecting what Robert and Joel and them would call reality. Mind is reflecting reality within itself as a five sense experience. That's what Joel means when he's always saying that you're not seeing a tree, you're seeing your concept of a tree. Robert always said that. He loved to talk about trees and cats and things. Say, you're not seeing a cat, you're seeing your concept of a cat. And what we're seeing is actually this cosmic mind's concept of a cat. Because we're not each individually responsible for creating every little object that we see. The cosmic mind that is presenting a five senses interpretation of reality, whatever reality means. So there's this mind bubble. But the other thing is that we don't see what cosmic mind produces. We see our interpretation of cosmic mind because we have our own individual set of beliefs and conditioning and scripts and all that sort of stuff. And so we paint a picture over what cosmic mind creates. The picture that we create is the picture that varies according to our level of consciousness, as we talked about last week. When we can see things at different levels, as we rise higher and higher, the picture becomes more filled with light and more filled with harmony and more filled with love and stuff like that, because that's what we're reflecting. That's the part of what's out there, part of world mind that we're picking up, or the reduction of world mind that we're picking up, and the more of God consciousness that we're picking up is affecting our reflection out there. But as Joel liked to point out, there are things that are apparently immutable within the mind bubble. Like no matter how much effort anybody puts into healing, they're never going to vary the tides by a second, or the orbit of planets or stuff like this. There is stuff that is, although it's our concept of reality, it's reflecting some laws that are outside of mind. So we have this conglomeration going on. There's what is content of what is being reflected in mind and channeled down to five senses, and there's our understanding and our current level of consciousness, which is painting a picture on that, and we're also being influenced by all the other people and the other 6 billion who are also radiating into the same mind and influencing us. So it really is false imagination, and it really is a five sense interpretation of what is as repainted by our own personal set of beliefs and conditioning and concepts.
Where does awareness fit in with mind?
Awareness?
Yeah, it's not really it. Well, where does it fit in?
It's a higher sense than
Right.
than the five or the six really. Thoughts are just like the other five. Awareness is how is the word aware, how are you using awareness as different from conscious of? Or different than consciousness? You see, awareness is the reality. I mean, we are aware, we are conscious, okay? That's why the awareness exercise is a very different thing from any mental exercise, because it's using the spiritual faculty, one of the spiritual faculties that the spiritual being has. If you're being aware or intuitive, you're in touch with the spiritual part of your, so to speak, duality. That's why the awareness exercise is so good, is because it's showing you that you do have faculties outside of the six, and training you to use them and lifting you up to where you can see things with it. You can be aware. By the way, you can use the awareness exercise to be aware of here and be aware of now, just like you can being aware of I, the spiritual I that you are. It works fine. Awareness can be aware of anything. And you can direct it. It's funny that we all know that we have senses beyond the five, because if you look at every one of our senses has a spiritual flavor to it. You know, how many times have you heard, you know, that, gee, that just really doesn't sound right to me, you know? We're not talking about atonal. We're talking about, in my consciousness, that doesn't sound right, or something smells fishy about this, or that doesn't feel right, or I don't see it that way, you know? I mean, we all are aware that we use all five of our senses we have a usage for them that reflects awareness. That doesn't feel right to me. It means that I'm aware that there's something else going on here that doesn't conform with the picture. Or, all of those, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't, all those terms reflect the fact that we do have real capabilities that are reflected. Our five senses are our five sense interpretation of our actual spiritual tools. Very limited. Gesundheit. The important thing to get is the understanding, Robert's term false imagination is a good one, and it's a long, old classic one, been around for centuries, millennia. The important thing to get is that it's all false imagination. Joel's word was hypnotism. It's all images in your mind. Hypnotism means you're seeing something in your mind that isn't external, that other people don't see. If I'm hypnotized and see a dog there, you people don't see it, okay? So you're not hypnotized, so I see it and you don't. But if we were all hypnotized, we'd all see it. And that's what's going on, is we're all hypnotized. We're all seeing these five sense things. So get your eye straightened out. You want to deal with the I that's outside of mind. There's the spiritual being that you are, that what is individualized as you as is outside of mind. And for some reason it has messed up and forgotten that, has separated itself, so to speak, and is identified with the material body inside of mind, just like we do when we dream at night. Just exactly like we do when we dream at night, and we're in our dream, and we identify with the me in the dream. Okay? That's what we're doing here. We're identifying with the me in this dream. So don't forget this week that the I that you habitually think you are is part of the dream. The being that is receiving these five sense inputs that cause us to believe that there's matter, the being that believes that is part of that. I mean, it's part of that. It itself is a five sense interpretation of the spiritual being that you really are. It itself is a toned down, reconfigured thing that's small enough for your silly brain to grasp, since you're limiting yourself. You're thinking your consciousness is limited to your silly brain's capacity. Are we getting a sense of this? Are we getting a flavor of it? Mm-hmm. It's not just the wrong guy, but you're building all the limitations and all the concepts about yourself that are in the in-mind self are such really poor, limited concepts of infinite capacities, and because they're so limited, all they can see is limitation. Joe?
I was wondering, there's a difference between believing or not believing. It seems easier after being here for a number of years to not so much believe that this is real. What seems most difficult is to stop identifying with it. And I'm just wondering if the vocabulary, like, is belief different than identification? Because it seems easier not to...
Self-identification falls out of the belief that this stuff is real. If you think there are things out there, then you start seeing causation. And you start causing things, and suddenly there's a you. Okay? Your problem is that you're hearing thoughts, and therefore you think there's a thinker. And who could possibly be thinking my thoughts other than me? And therefore there's a me. Okay? I mean, I create my ego just out of believing that these things have reality. Snowball's back in. It's all part of it's a package deal. But in fact, if you saw clearly that it was all false imagination, the identification would stop like that, because you would see that that thing which you're identified with is false imagination. Okay? On the other hand, if you absolutely stopped identifying with the you in the false imagination, it would stop like that, because not being identified with that, you would see that it's all false imagination. So it's all one package. And,
But each time, each moment,
each instant
that I possibly have an awareness, I possibly am here now, that breaks it down a little bit, the identification a little bit.
Crack identification. Yes, look at that. When you're here now, there's no you. There's no Joe.
But that's what I have to keep coming back to.
You gotta keep falling back into the here now. Yeah. But if you keep noticing that there's no Joe, you just blew it. Stop right now and be present with it. Just be present. Now, how big are you? See, the question has no meaning. How big am I? Am I infinite? Am I small? Where am I? And there's no sense of passing of time. There's just now, just this. And there's certainly nothing to be identified with here. I mean, I hear the wind chimes, and I have a sense of a body down here, and I have stuff, but they're all exactly the same. Everything that I'm conscious of, when I'm not naming it and labeling it and identifying it and discriminating between it, everything that I'm conscious of, there's no difference between it. No difference between the car sound and the wind chime sound and the voice sound and the light appearance and the butt on the seat pressure. There's no difference. See, it's only when I label them that they're different. They're just things that I'm aware of. They're just awarenesses. And there's no Lee until I say Lee or say I or think I. If I'm not thinking I, there's no lead. Just this huge whatever it is. And there's certainly no difference between two objects here. They're not two objects, they're two imaginations. They're two forms formed out of nothing, with colors and aromas and sounds added to them, but they're formed out of nothing. Their substance is nothing except imagination. There's no difference between an imagined yellow school bus and an imagined pink elephant. And this is the experience that you can approach while driving your car down the freeway. If you get yourself here in the car and let the freeway just be these imaginations changing size and shape. There's absolutely no sense of time here. Absolutely no sense of volume or of limitation. I have no boundaries. I'm neither infinite nor infinitesimal, nor anywhere in between. The words have no meaning. If I try to get a handle on my size, I can't do that. This consciousness that I am, this awareness that I am, I can't possibly get a handle on the size. I can't be infinite because I can't see that far. But I'm certainly not limited. See, I'm not in space. I'm just conscious. This is a nice place to sit. The homework for this week is a flashcard. I am what is individualizing. Okay? And I played with that, and for me it was more fun. I am what is individualizing than I am what is individualized. Since if you're doing it, you're in time. The ongoingness of it seemed to add zest to it to me. So play with that this week, whenever anything comes up. Just know that I am what is individualizing. And that that's all just false imagination out there. Okay? All right, I love you all. Thanks for coming. See you next week, I hope.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.